4 or 5 weeks ago. It's going back again. Okay, so this is what Mad Mag's setting is all about, I suppose. Okay, wants to change and go into, oh yeah, it's changed its mind. That was interesting. There we go.
In 2 kilometers, take the exit.
Yes, very excited. Just downloaded the latest over-the-air Tesla software update, which is version 2019.40.50.5, which I'm expecting to include for the first time in Australia, navigate on AutoPilot. This is a feature that's been available in the US for a little while now, and they've had quite a lot of success with it by all reports. It's the ability for the car to change lanes autonomously. So if you're in a lane where there's a car moving fairly slowly in front of you, obviously below the speed limit, the car will by itself work out when and if and how to overtake that vehicle and move into the next lane, and then move back into the original lane. So yeah, very excited to try that out. We've had automatic lane changing available for a little while now, but that relied on the driver having to press the indicator or the blinker to tell it in which lane the driver wanted the car to be in. But now it will be able to do that whole overtaking procedure all by itself. So can't wait to see how that goes on Australian roads. There should be a couple of other things. One thing we unfortunately won't get, which was the Christmas present in the US, which was the AutoPilot or the full self-driving preview, which is where the car renders traffic lights, stop signs, stop lines on a road, rubbish bins and things like that. So it doesn't do anything. It doesn't stop for the traffic lights or anything like that. It just renders them, or it just illustrates them on the screen. So it was just a preview. So unfortunately we won't get that, but exciting enough to get navigate on AutoPilot. There should be a couple of other things as well. A new game, backgammon, might be another game. There should be text messaging ability for the first time, a few more voice commands and a couple of other things. So let me flip the phone around and show you the installation process. Okay, let's install version 2019.40.50.5. Now before you can do that, you've got to make sure you turn Sentry Mode off, which is that black dot there, as well as the camera to the left of it, which is the dash cam. If you're wondering what that house symbol is, that's HomeLink. That allows you to open and close garage doors and gates automatically rather than relying on a remote. So where are we? Here we go, software update. We'll install now rather than waiting till tonight, and it will take approximately 25 minutes, which is fairly usual for most updates. Okay, we're almost there. 5 seconds to go. 3, 2, 1. Here we go. As per usual, the whole screen turns off and it gives us the progress. So unwrapping present. That's quite funny. So this was supposed to be the Christmas present for Australia. Okay, so we're now into 2019.40.50.5. Let's check out the release notes. Navigate on AutoPilot, obviously in beta or in testing mode. So can't wait to check that out. Adjacent lane speed, so this is where the car will slow down or brake in order to find a spot in the lane next to where it's at. Voice commands, let's try that out. So open the glove box. Very cool. That actually works quite well. Okay. Phone improvement, so this is where you can use text messaging. Camp mode, that would have been handy. I actually slept in the car just to try things out just after Boxing Day, so that would have been handy. But as it says here, big batteries rock, so it's basically trying to tell you that it does suck a bit of juice. So just be aware of that. Tesla Theta, so Twitch, gamers will love that. Shaju Valley, so that's a farming game. Backgammon, voice keyboard, this is quite cool. So rather than just being restricted to typing on the keyboard, you can use your voice. Tracks, so this is where you can lay down some tunes, basically record some music, which is quite cool. This is pretty good as well. Save dash cam clips on honk. So something happens in front of you, you honk the horn, it will automatically save that bit of footage on the USB and make sure it doesn't overwrite that bit of footage. I think it's about 30 seconds or 1 minute, something like that. Driver profiles, new language support. Excellent. Okay, let's go and check out navigate on autopilot, because that'll be the most exciting bit. Okay, about to take the car onto the freeway and try out navigate on autopilot. Before I do, I thought I'd take you through the settings so you can see what I've got selected. So we'll start with auto steer, and that's the disclaimer for it there. That has to be on for navigate on autopilot to work, and obviously navigate on autopilot also has to be selected. Customize navigate on autopilot, there's 4 settings here. I'm going to select start or enable start of every trip, which means that it will give me the option of it starting automatically without having to press an additional button for it to begin. Speed-based lane changes, basically there's 4 options, disabled or off, which obviously we don't want. And then there's mild, average or max. So under mild, the car won't overtake or won't change lanes unless the car in front of it is moving significantly slower. So it's the most conservative of the 3 options. Mad Max, the car in front only needs to be moving a little bit slower for it to initiate an overtaking procedure. So I'm going to select Mad Max, as that will no doubt be the most interesting for the video, and require lane change confirmation. So I'm just going to tick no on that, because I want it to do everything autonomously, all by itself. When I say autonomously, it doesn't mean I can fall asleep or watch a video. I'm still completely responsible for the vehicle and have to have my hands on the steering wheel at all time, ready to take over. It just means that the car is selecting which lane to be in all by itself, when and if to overtake all by itself. So I'm just going to select that as no, and that's the disclaimer or the information about it there. And then lane change notification, I'm going to select both, so that I can feel the steering wheel vibrate as well as hear a chime when it actually is ready to change lanes, so that you know as well when it's about to happen. All right, let's give it a shot. Now there's 2 ways to turn on navigate on autopilot. As you can see, I'm already in autopilot mode, and I can just go into navigate, select a destination, and because I selected enable at start, the blue button option should come up as it did just then, and it's changing lanes already. Mad Max is definitely working. So it's gone into this middle lane, I presume because the left lane is a bit slower. Well, it actually is, so not by much, but yeah, it is slower. So no, I'm glad that it's picked that up, so that's good. Now there's another way to enable navigate on autopilot, and that's to take autopilot off. So I've taken autopilot off, I'm now driving the car. We'll drop down to 80 kilometers an hour because that's the speed limit here. And even though now that we've already have the navigation set, actually I might go into the right hand lane here before we do that. I'll now engage autopilot. There we go, drop it down to 80, and already it wants to do a change lanes, but I'll cancel that. So the way you cancel it is you just press the indicator in the opposite direction, and that cancels what you want it to do. So I wanted it to stay in the right hand lane, because I want to show you this, which is quite challenging for autopilot, in that the lane has got 2 different colors. Now it wants to go back into that middle lane again, so this time I've let it do it. So once again, completely autonomous, completely by itself, and change lanes. I might make it go into the other lane again, so you can still use it the way you use autopilot, which is by using the indicator and telling it in which lane you would like it to be. but it will also suggest and do its own lane changes when and how it sees fit. Now, what I might show you is there's actually a third way of turning Navigate on Autopilot on or off, and that's simply by pressing that button. So I've turned Navigate on Autopilot on, so we only have Autopilot turned on, and I can turn it to come back on. So what I might do is just slow down a little bit and go behind this car here. So I've made it go into the lane in the middle, and I might turn it off and turn it on again, and it should try and change lanes fairly quickly, I would have thought, because this car is going at 77 kilometers an hour. We're going at 80. It's not quite changing lanes yet. Okay, it's engaging another lane change. I need to confirm this one because it thinks that I didn't have my hands on the steering wheel because I wasn't applying much pressure to it. So I'm just got my hands on the wheel, but just relaxed, holding it very relaxed. I'm not putting any pressure on the wheel at all, allowing it to change lanes as and how it pleases. So it's overtaking this car in the middle lane. Here we go. It's initiating another lane change, so I'm just going to let it know that I've got my hands on the wheel by applying a bit of pressure. Beautiful lane change there. You can see here the different coloured parts or sections of the lane, which no doubt would have to be quite challenging for Autopilot, you would think. Now we're coming up to a section here where there's witches' hats on the right, or construction cones, call them what you like, and as you can see, the Tesla or the Model 3 is obviously picking them up very nicely indeed. And it's also picked up the car, the sedan that overtook us on the right. Actually, it's a hatchback. Is it a hatchback? No, I think it's a sedan. Okay, it's initiating another lane change. This time off to the second lane on the left. Now, to be honest, I don't know if I would have gone into this lane. It is faster at the moment, yes, but you can see there's a lot more traffic building up further ahead. So a human driver would probably anticipate that and maybe not move into this lane, and maybe would have stayed in the right-hand lane. And you can now see the right-hand lane is maybe a little bit faster. So I suppose that's where a human is still a little bit more intelligent than the robot. And that car, which was in the right-hand lane, has now moved into the middle lane, so that whole right-hand lane would have been free. That said, I've got it set at 80 and we are going at 80 kilometers an hour, so we are staying within the speed limit, so you really can't criticize Navigate on Autopilot for that at all. Okay, that was interesting. So that car pulled in front of us and actually slowed down the traffic, and as soon as that car pulled in front of us, Navigate on Autopilot changed lanes to the next lane, which was free straight away. That was actually really great to see. And now it wants to change lanes again. Which way is it going? Right. So I've just got to apply a bit of pressure onto the steering wheel.
Stay on 2.
There we go. Okay, I'm just slowing down to 80 kilometers an hour, even though the speed limit still says 100, and that's because we've just passed the sign saying it's 80 here, and that's due to the construction up ahead once again. And what I might do is I might force it to go into the right-hand lane, because that is the more interesting lane to be in, at least as far as Autopilot is concerned, because there's all these additional lane markings, mainly the older ones. Okay, wants to change and go into, oh yeah, it's changed its mind. That was interesting. That car sped up quite quickly and it aborted about halfway through as that car, a pity I didn't have the reversing camera on, that would have been interesting. So yeah, so it was trying to change into the middle lane, but that four-wheel drive was coming through really quickly, and it was really speeding up. I think he didn't realise this is an 80 kilometre speed limit, so everyone's going 80 and he was going 100. But yes, as soon as, you know, yeah, I don't know if that was the right thing to do, if a human driver would have aborted at that point. Yeah, it's a hard one. I mean, I'd like to think that if I was driving, I wouldn't have gone into that middle lane to begin with, because I would have seen the car coming a little bit faster from way back. If I hadn't noticed it and I was already halfway there, would I have gone back? Well, possibly, I'm not sure. It's a hard one. Now, I'll just tell it to go into that right-hand lane again. I wanted to be in this lane to show you. You can probably see, and there we go, the old lane markings going over into the emergency lane there, but Autopilot just staying on course, staying in the correct lane. That, I mean, that would have to be quite challenging for the artificial intelligence, you would have thought. But I've been up and down this road numerous times during the construction period, and it's never got that wrong, not even once, not even at the beginning. So that's really encouraging to see. Here we go, here's the different, so we're effectively driving in the old emergency lane now, and you can see they've tried to rub out the old lane markings, but as you can see, half the lane is a completely different colour from the other half of the lane. But it's not causing Autopilot any dramas or any worries whatsoever. In fact, it wants to move into the middle lane, so I'm going to let it. No reason as to why not. Yeah, possibly this middle lane is a little bit faster now. There's some witches hats, some construction cones coming up ahead, and good to see Tesla rendering those. And it's also rendering the sedan that's coming up on our right here as well. There's a big shadow here underneath the overpass overhead, and hasn't caused it any dramas whatsoever. It's really amazing. I really can't think of any other manufacturer which has self-driving developed to this level. I mean, I have no idea where Waymo is, where Uber is, where a lot of the others are, but I would be, look at these shadows here. I mean, you know, that would, you know, in the past that would have been easy enough to throw Autopilot off. I'm not speaking from personal experience, because we haven't had Autopilot in Australia for that long, but just looking at some videos and YouTube videos from a few people in the US, I know that the Model 3 and even the Model S would brake quite suddenly when it saw shadows coming across the road. But yeah, it's not braking, it's driving just like a human driver would. And look at this chicane coming up ahead here. I'm just taking my hands off the steering wheel just to show you how it's doing it absolutely beautifully. Okay, so back to 100 kilometers an hour, and we've just passed that whole construction. Oh, it wants to go into the right-hand lane, and it's aborted. So it wanted to go there, but it's aborted because this hatch went into the right-hand lane before we did. Now it's sped up a little bit.
In 2 kilometers, keep right to
Very interesting.
Junior.
So it aborted before it actually started moving over to the lane, which is what you wanted to do. So no, that was quite impressive. Okay, we've got another lane change coming up. I'm just going to press the steering wheel a little bit so it knows that I've got my hands on the wheel. Perfect lane change. This is so much more advanced even from not the last update, but the update before that. So the update from maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, it's going back again. Okay, so this is what Mad Mag's setting is all about, I suppose. Now this lane is moving a little bit quicker, so it's gone back into the middle lane. Nicely done. As I was saying, so the update from maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago enabled Autopilot to change lanes a lot more confidently and a lot more decisively. So previously the indicator would sit there for maybe four or 5 clicks, sometimes even longer, before it would change lanes. Whereas now, even if you don't have Navigate on Autopilot and you're just driving in normal Autopilot, actually I'll show you right now. So we're still in Navigate on Autopilot, as you can see there, but you can override it at any point in time. So I'll do that now. I'll tell it to go into the right hand lane. So I've pressed the indicator and straight away it's changed lanes beautifully. So I didn't sit there indicating, and clicking away 4 or 5 times. It did it decisively and confidently and straight away. So I'll go back into the middle lane again on 3. 1, 2, 3. Here we go. So I just had to let it know that I had my hands on the wheel. Let's try that again, just for fun. Here we go, straight away. And we'll go back into the middle lane, straight away. Beautiful, really great. In fact, I might go into this lane here. Oops, I've pressed the steering wheel a little bit too hard and it's taken off Autopilot. So now I've got, as you can see, I'm steering the car now. But I'll put Autopilot back on, and here we are, and we're in Navigate on Autopilot on. Now it's trying to make a change to the right again. Very good. Okay. Yep. This lane is a little bit faster. Is it? Yeah, it is. It is a little bit faster. It's almost hard to perceive, but yeah, if you look closely, and I suppose that's what Mad Mag's setting is all about. It puts you in the fastest lane, irrespective of how much faster that lane is. Even if it's a little bit faster, it puts you in that correct lane, which is great. That's what the setting is all about. And here we go, got another lane change coming up, going into the far right lane again. Beautiful. This car ahead of us was going at about 97 kilometers an hour. We wanted to be going the speed limit, which is 100, so it's changed lanes into the far right lane. Beautiful. So hopefully you've got a fairly good idea of what you can expect driving on the Navigate on Autopilot setting in a Tesla in Australia, specifically on the Mitchell Freeway, the north part of the freeway here in Perth in Western Australia. In terms of what I think, look, I've had a couple of days to test out Navigate on Autopilot. As I said, the software came out only a couple of days ago, only 3 or 4 days ago here in Australia, and I got it 2 days ago. You only saw a portion of the footage there. I've had, maybe I've done 50 or 60 lane changes or more, maybe 30 or 40 overtakes, where the car would basically overtake the car in front pretty much completely autonomously, completely by itself. which is really, really quite amazing when you think about it, and really just reinforces the idea of how far Tesla is in front of or ahead of all the other manufacturers. Look, I've got no way of knowing where Waymo or Uber are with their self-driving cars or any of the other manufacturers. Because it's not available to the public. The great thing about the Tesla model is that the public gets to be part of making the system better and developing it through these beta software updates, these test versions of the software. And that's how the whole model works. As I may have said before, the artificial intelligence engine requires a huge amount of data, which is collected by us, the owners, the drivers, and sent to Tesla for the artificial engine to analyze and learn from, and then we get the benefit of the next software version when it comes out, which pretty much in most occasions, in Australia at least, every single version has been better than the previous version, and you can definitely feel that with Navigate on Autopilot this time around. So in terms of my impressions, if I had to give it a score out of 10, I would probably go somewhere between 8 and 9, maybe 8.5 out of 10. The reason for that score is there was a couple of incidences. So one I managed to capture on camera there, where the car started shifting into the adjacent lane, and maybe it didn't recognize that the car behind us, well, maybe it didn't recognize early enough that the car behind us was moving fairly quickly, much faster than all the other cars. And as a result, about halfway through the lane change, the Model 3 aborted and went back. Now, I would have hoped that I would have been able to recognize that a little bit earlier. And I think most human drivers would have recognise that car moving much faster than the rest of the cars earlier, perhaps early enough to prevent moving into the next lane, probably not early enough to prevent putting the indicator on and to begin to move to that next lane, but hopefully early enough not to actually cross the lane markings. So yeah, it was a little bit slow, a little bit late. It did the right thing in aborting, absolutely. But maybe you should have just done that a little bit earlier. But look, being super critical here, and I think you need to. I think that's fair enough. There was another incident also where the car was trying to move into the adjacent lane in between two cars. The first car was a fair distance in front, but the second car, similarly to the first occasion, was moving up fairly quickly. I would have expected, I would have hoped, and a human driver probably would have reacted this way, and that would have been to press the throttle, the accelerator a little bit harder and accelerate a little bit more and split that difference a little bit closer down the middle, rather than what the Model 3 did. It ended up being a little bit too far from the car in front and a little bit too close as a result from the car behind. But once again, being super critical here. And really nitpicking. In terms of does it feel safe? Is it safe? Look, it absolutely feels safe. I think the statistics say that it already is twice as safe as a human driver. Look, would I trust it enough to just go to sleep and let it drive by itself? Absolutely not. I mean, it's not designed to do that. As I said, this is test software, and it really is designed for testing in order to aggregate all the extra data and send it up to Tesla for the artificial engine to learn from it, and then download the next version, which we get the benefit of, which will be better. And at least in Australian experience, every single software version has only gotten better each time around. So yeah, look, overall, it's incredible just how far Tesla is ahead of all the other companies, at least from what the public can see. And, it's really positive step towards full self-driving, which really I can see coming in maybe 2, 3, 4 years' time. It's definitely not out of the question. And if you give Elon the benefit of the doubt, as I think we should, considering his track record and his history, it might be a lot sooner than that. So The car definitely is not going to be a horse, as my t-shirt shows, as you can see there, and as Elon Musk said at one of his quarterly earnings reports or earnings announcements, where he basically said that any car actually, I can't exactly remember the time frame, but any car in the future which doesn't have full self-driving will feel like a horse compared to a car at the moment. So definitely the Model 3 is definitely not going to be a horse. So look, hopefully you got some value out of that. Hopefully you found it interesting. If you know anyone else that may be interested in this type of content, please do share the video. Please give it a like if you've got some value out of it, as I said, and please subscribe so you can get alerted to any new videos as and when they come out. Almost forgot to mention, if you're in the market for a Tesla, a Model 3 or any other model, please make sure you use a referral code. It doesn't have to be my code, but I'll be honest, I'd love it if you were to use my code. That way we'll both receive 1,500 kilometers of free supercharging, or 1,000 miles, depending on obviously which geographical region you live in. So make sure you use that code. If you've already put an order in and you didn't use a referral code, I'll include my email address below. Drop me a quick message and I'll show you how you can still get your free kilometers. So yeah, make sure you do that. That's it from me. So until the next video, stay tuned. My name is Pete. Stay safe, stay sustainable, and stay ahead of the curve. Ciao.